Gonna pretend that didn't happen. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to TTP Sports. The Phillies get swept by the Chicago Cubs to start the second half of the year. As I stated yesterday, Bailey Falter on the mound gives up a lot of home runs. 4 runs to the not to the Cubs. Everything, my goodness, it was just bad, bad, bad. Yeah, you had a little fight in there at the end. You did. You definitely did. You had a chance to tie the ball game up in the bottom of the 9th inning. And Didi Gregorius comes up short. And Garrett Stubbs can't play hero ball the entire game after he made it a 1-run game in the bottom of the 8th inning with a home run. He's not going to play hero ball every single game. Can't expect that much from Garrett Stubbs after the amazing game that he had already. Your top guys go quiet again. Rhys Hoskins did have 2 hits, though, but, the lineup does get changed a little bit. Matt Vierling gets put in the leadoff spot. No hits. Kyle Schwarber gets moved down to the 2-hole. Nick Castellanos gets moved down to the 5-hole. A little bit of lineup tweaks. Your bullpen kept you in the game, which was obvious. I was very surprised Familia even had a scoreless top of the 9th inning. I was even surprised why he's even in there in the top of the 9th inning. But still, your bullpen kept you in the ball game. Your offense was being perfect gamed by Drew Smyly through 4 innings, I believe. Your first hit wasn't until the 5th, and that was a double by Bryce and Stott, which eventually led to an RBI single by Alec Bohm. But the matter of the fact is, you were struggling to hit Drew Smyly, who is not a good pitcher. Drew Smyly is not a good pitcher. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. Now, is it the end of the world? No. Is the season over? No. But this Phillies team right now, they don't get the benefit of the doubt. They don't. Even though I stress positivity and everything like that, the fan base has a right, and rightfully so, to not give this Phillies team the benefit of the doubt because of what they have put us through basically for the past couple of seasons. And also for the matter of the fact this team has not made the playoffs in 10 straight years. So the fan base is rightfully so not to give the team the benefit of the doubt. But even though this is frustrating, I'm still not going to stress the season is over because there's still plenty of baseball left. It doesn't make this start to the second half even more frustrating. Because you need to make moves now. You can't wait for the trade deadline anymore. You need to find a bat that can bolster this lineup. You need to add a bat. And yes, when you get Gene Segura and Bryce Harper back into the lineup eventually, yes, that's going to be wonderful additions. No doubt. And I still firmly believe this Phillies team is going to be within the race until the very end. That's the thing. I still believe that. They're still going to be within the race until the very end. But you need to make moves now. You can't rely every 5th day having a Bailey Falter game, having a Christopher Sanchez game. Because like I said yesterday, Bailey Falter is only going to give you 4 or 5 innings max. And what did he do today? He pitched 5 innings. He allowed 5 hits, 4 runs, and 3 of those were solo shots. 2 of those, Dion Gomes, the backup catcher, who only had, 2-3 home runs coming into this ball game. And then the Alvarez kid just continues to go deep. Not Alvarez, Velasquez, actually. Velasquez continues to go deep and hurt you. Morel continues to hurt you this series. Add him to the list of Philly killers. Same thing with Velasquez for the Cubs. But the matter of the fact is, it doesn't make it any less frustrating. The fan base has a right not to give this team the benefit of the doubt because of what they've put us through basically for the past 10 years. Not making the playoffs 10 years, and even going back to 2018 when the team looked like they were making up strides. When you have those second half collapses, 2018, you were in first place until July. Then you had that insane second half collapse. 2019, basically the same thing. 2020 in the COVID shortened season, you had a chance to make the playoffs with the extra wild card spot. You only needed to go 2-8 in those final 10 games, and you only won 1 of those. And then last year, when you had a good chance to, fight with the Braves for the division with the Mets falling out of place. You lost series to bad teams last year. You lost series to teams like the Diamondbacks, to the teams like the Rockies, to teams like the Baltimore Orioles, to teams like the Chicago Cubs, like you did today, or this entire series. You lost those winnable series, and that took you out of the race last year. Don't do it again. And yes, you are going to lose series to bad teams. It's granted, every team has a series where they lose to bad teams. And yes, the Phillies this year have won more times than not against teams that are below 500. I brought this up yesterday. They played 13 series so far against teams that are below 500, and they've won, I believe, 9 of those. So that's still a good sample size there. But don't falter, i.e. barely falter, but don't falter as the season goes along. You need to make moves now. I'm not talking about game-changing, go out there, get the biggest superstar out there, go get Juan Soto or anything like that. You need to add depth. You need to add depth to this team. Because right now, Kyle Schwarber's going through a little bit of a rut. Nick Castellanos still sucks. And I have more to get on Nick Castellanos later because of what happened last night. Basically, this offense still has been Kyle Schwarber or Rhys Hoskins, and when those two aren't enough to get it done, c'est la vie to the rest of the lineup. You can't rely on Bryce and stat that much because it's a rookie and it's way too much to ask. Garrett Stubbs, he did enough today. He can't play hero ball every single game. It's not going to happen. I'm looking at Nick Castellanos and Didi Gregorius. And even though JT Realmuto has been one of the better hitters on this team since Bryce Harper got injured, he's still not carrying the offense. Regardless of what the numbers say, it doesn't look like he's carrying the offense at all. When we're talking about carrying the offense, we're seeing what Kyle Schwarber has been doing, what Rhys Hoskins has been doing. Those two carry the offense. Yeah, JT will probably put in a couple of singles here and there, maybe a double, but he's not carrying the offense like what Schwarber and Rhys do with the home runs and driving in RBIs and getting those big hits. JT hasn't been doing that. His numbers look good, but he hasn't been carrying the offense, even though he's been one of the better hitters since Harper got injured. And the Phillies are now, I believe, 12-11 since Bryce Harper got injured, which on the surface is fine. On the surface, when you lose your MVP player, on the surface, it's fine. But when the Phillies have done for the past 10 years, the fan base has a right to not give the team the benefit of the doubt at all. If this Phillies team, say, made the playoffs maybe last year or 2 years ago, this type of stretch would be understandable since you lost your best player. But you don't get the benefit of the doubt. You don't. Even though I'm still in the belief in maybe some of the minority now, because, Philadelphia fans, they go from one extreme to the next, and rightfully so with this Phillies team, though. I still believe they're going to be within it till the very end. I do believe that. They've won series they won the season series against the St. Louis Cardinals. They won the season series against the Milwaukee Brewers, teams that are going to be battling through the NL Central spot and most likely going to end up in one of those wild card spots. It's the fact that you don't get the benefit of the doubt. That's the issue. And that's the problem. You have to prove it to the fan base that you're not going to falter in the second half, especially when you have a lot of teams coming up that are below 500. Yes, your next series is against the Atlanta Braves, and you put yourself in a bad spot because you lost the series to the Cubs. And if you won that series against Chicago, if you won 2 games, okay, maybe people will accept losing a series to the Atlanta Braves because the Atlanta Braves are just simply a better team than you. And now you put yourself in an uncomfortable position to where you have to win the series against Atlanta because it's a very important series. And then you have a 4-game series coming up this weekend against the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are below 500. And you don't want to do what you did against the Cubs this week. You just don't. You want to go into Pittsburgh and win in that because that is the series before the trade deadline. I believe the trade deadline is August 2nd, I believe. Yes, August 2nd. That is next Tuesday. The trade deadline is then, next week. And after that Pirates series, you do have a day off the day before the trade deadline. So that's when I expect maybe the Phillies to make their moves. And then you have a 2-game series next week in Atlanta, the day of the trade deadline. But in my honest opinion, you can't wait for the trade deadline anymore. I was okay treading water until the All-Star break, and you did. You did tread water until the All-Star break. You went on that little skid, and you swept the series in Miami. But now, you put yourself in a situation where you need to make moves. You can't tread water. You can't have a Bailey Falter game every 5 days. You just can't. or every 5th day. You just can't. Same thing, but it's not a knock on Christopher Sanchez either, but you just cannot throw those guys out there every 5th day because one, it's going to be taxing on your bullpen because those two guys can't go 4 or 5 innings. They're only going to go 4 or 5 innings max. On some days, maybe 3 with, the way they don't have, elite, not elite stuff. They don't have electric stuff. And when you throw a Bailey Falter and a Christopher Sanchez out there every 5th day, when your offense is slumping, yeah, you're not going to win those games most likely unless your bullpen keeps you within the ball game or they go out there and just, have a game for themselves. And the bullpen kept you in this one. It did. And the bullpen's still showcasing that the bullpen's still been very good lately. Your offense needs to get it going. And you need to make moves. I do expect Dave Dombrowski to make a move to bolster the lineup. Like I said, there's been rumors about Ian Happ, and my personal opinion, Ian Happ should not be allowed to leave Philadelphia. He should not be allowed. Like I said, fans have the rights not to give the team the benefit of the doubt. Perfect right. They have the understandable right because of what they've done for the past 10 years. Even though I'm in the minority thinking they'll still be within it till the very end. I still think that. This team has a lot of doubters. And this series sweep to the Cubs, it's going to prove a lot of those guys right. And you don't want to do that consistently. You just don't. You don't want to bring those naysayers out there. And by moves, like I said, I'm not expecting earth-bending moves. Probably going to be the same moves that they did last year. Depth pieces. Another back-end starting rotation type of guy. Back-end stuff for the bullpen. Maybe depth for the bullpen. Maybe long relief guys. Maybe another just, inning either. Moves that you don't have to give up major pieces for. And if you're talking about an Ian Happ, possibly. What would you move for him? Maybe you move in Ohapi. Maybe Ohapi is the starting piece for that deal. Maybe a Marchand. And then maybe a roster guy. Maybe, who knows? Who knows? But this game right here, you don't want to prove the naysayers right. And like I said, it doesn't make it any less frustrating, even though I still believe that they'll be with it until the very end. Because I'm not going to stress it's the end of the world, like most Phillies fans do. Even though it's rightfully so. Like I said, it's rightfully so. Because the team does not deserve the benefit of the doubt. Because when you have Nick Castellanos going back and forth with Jim Salisbury last night, even though it's nice to see frustration from him, it's clearly frustrating, even though I do believe both him and Jim Salisbury are in the wrong in that scenario. I think Nick Castellanos probably should have taken that question more professionally. And I think Jim Salisbury, as a professional, shouldn't have gotten that pissed off, in my honest opinion. I think both are in the wrong. That's where I stand. Who knows what the questions will be today? Even though I do expect those two to make up and apologize for it. Because at the end of the day, they are professionals. Right now, you have a lot to prove. This team has a lot to prove. Even though they've been a lot better, starting in June, you still have a lot of doubters. Still have a lot. You got to do something. You just got to do something. Because this game, this series, is going to bring a lot of people off. Just is. Just is. It just is at this point. Look at the lineup. Matt Bierling, Kyle Schwarber both 0 for 4. Rhys Hoskins goes 2 for 4 with an RBI. Derek Hall 0 for 4. Nick Castellanos 1 for 4. Bryson Stott 1 for 3. Alec Boehm goes 3 for 4. Didi Gregorius, I don't know what happens when Gene Segura comes back into the lineup. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Bryson Stott starts over Didi when Gene Segura comes back. I just wouldn't be surprised because Didi just isn't cutting it at this point. It really isn't. It's not even saying Bryson Stott is cutting it either, even though I feel like he's been a lot better as of late, especially defensively. I wouldn't be surprised if Stott starts over him. Who knows? Who knows? And Garrett Stubbs, he goes 2 for 4. He had a solo shot in this ball game to make it 4-3. Can't play hero ball every single day. He's just not going to do it every time. Just not going to happen. Looking at the rest of the bullpen, Nick Nelson gave you 2 solid innings, 2 strikeouts on 30 pitches. Corey Knebel only had an 8-pitch 7th inning. Sevilla surprisingly had a solid knife. Surprisingly. But like I said, you got to find a way. You got to prove the people wrong. Like, you have to prove people wrong. You don't want to prove them right. And right now with this series against Chicago, you're proving those guys right. Will the moves come eventually? Yes. Dave Dombrowski will make moves. Are they going to happen now? Can't tell you that. I can't tell you that whatsoever. Only thing I can do is take it day by day. And if I'm looking at the scoreboard right here, just looking at everything right now, the Braves are actually getting smoked by the Angels, surprisingly, 8-0. The Reds, they're beating the Cardinals. So at the end of the day, the Reds are giving the Phillies help, and the Phillies aren't taking advantage of it. And another thing for the Cardinals, too. It was also announced today that I believe they play in Toronto this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And they're going to be down Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado because none of them are vaccinated. So that's going to be a huge loss for St. Louis. And with the way Toronto has been playing lately, might be major help for the Phillies. But like I said, they still have to take advantage of that scenario. They just do. Basically, that's what it sums up to. You got to take advantage of those scenarios when teams are helping you. And you haven't been doing that. Just haven't. So, if I look at the live feed right now, because I see some people here in the live feed, this is going to be more shorter than usual. It's not going to be as long as yesterday because I do have stuff to do later. But I'll get into the chat. Rattle in the chat here. Even though the good stretch offense has been a problem, Hoskins and Schwarber can't do it all. Didi, Nick, and JT need to get it together. Bullpen has been good this year, and they're wasting it. Yeah, like I said, you're not treading water this much if Didi Gregorius and Nick Castellanos aren't playing as shit as they are. It's that simple. If Didi was somehow able to replicate what he did in the COVID-shortened season, he wouldn't be this bad. It just wouldn't be, in my honest opinion. And Nick Castellanos was able to get somewhat if he was doing, over his, if he was able to live up to what his numbers are in his career, you wouldn't be a concern at all. Connects to the previous point. Bowman, Stott are still young players who have shown that they are improving throughout their season. Also, don't think that the Phillies should trade prospects if they don't act like contenders, and they're not. I don't expect them to go out, like Dave Dombrowski said. He's already said top prospects in their organization are or not on the table at all. Like I said, if you're making depth moves, you're not gonna be trading in top prospects for depth moves entirely. Ian Happ's not going to cost you anything major from the prospect system. Same thing if you go out for a depth starting pitcher, and same thing for the bullpen. That's not going to cost you much. They went out and got Kyle Gibson and an Ian Kennedy for Spencer Howard. So that can show you that some guys don't cost that much. Also, continuing the point, Clintack left the Phillies farm system in shambles. That is true. They don't have a lot of young talent, so they need to keep them. Good teams don't only rely on free agents. Yep. And I don't expect Dave Dombrowski to move a lot of those guys. Like I said, if you're moving an Ian Happ, wouldn't know Hoppy be a guy that you consider moving? Maybe you try to convince him to Marsh. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. Correct response from Nick Castellanos from Mullet petition for Alvarado. Took him long enough. And it does sound nice that he's showing frustration, but like I said, I think him and Salisbury are both in the wrong there. From Scott Lewis, somehow, some way, this team finds a way to get the top of the order to produce. Like I said yesterday, 2 for 16 will not win you games. The bottom of the order cannot keep hearing. Yep, exactly. And like I said, when Kyle Schwarber is going for a little bit of a slump here, and Rhys Hoskins is not going to do everything every single day either, you need guys like Nick Castellanos and Didi Gregorius to provide. Same thing with JT. Even though, like I said, he's been a lot better since Bryce Harper went down with the injury, he's still not carrying the offense on a consistent basis like Schwarber and Rhys have. It's just a fact. So when guys like Schwarber and Rhys Hoskins have their off nights, you need to rely on guys like Castellanos and Didi to do something. And this season, it hasn't been it. It's been Schwarber, Hoskins, and nothing else, really. And then sometimes the provides from the bottom parts of the lineup from Stott, Bowman, maybe Stubbs when he gets into the lineup. maybe a Munoz home run. But basically, it's been that and nothing else. Yeah, Sean, I know you're really down on the Phillies just because you don't believe in them making their 7. Like yes, like I said, Sean, many times throughout this episode, I said you have the right, the wholehearted right to not give them the benefit of the doubt whatsoever. I know you said many times before you don't like how the team is constructed. I understand that. But when you have guys in this locker room that are bona fide leaders and they've been through playoff pushes, Kyle Schwarber, bona fide leader, many playoff pushes with the Cubs, won a World Series with the Cubs. Bryce Harper, he went to many playoffs with the Nationals that didn't end in going to the NLCS or anything like that. But Bryce Harper still has, the playoff experience. There's leaders in this locker room that should be able to get the team over the hump. And that's one of the reasons why I believe in this team, is what Kyle Schwarber can do. And I still believe in Rhys Hoskins. And when you eventually get a Gene Segura back, which is probably sooner rather than later, it'll definitely be a big bolster to your lineup. And whatever moves Dave does make in the trade deadline, because he is going to make moves. They made moves last year. Yeah, it didn't help, but still, there are ways to make moves. There are. EJW says, save. Glad didn't watch the game. Saved me a heart attack. Will you stress that the Braves come in and destroy them also? Yeah, I will stress it. I will stress it. Because I still don't believe a series loss, series sweep to start the second half isn't the end of the world. It just isn't. We may treat it like it's the end of the world. It's not. But what if this spirals down into a bigger slump? Well, I won't even consider slump, a bigger stretch to where you're going this entire week and you're losing, then I'll have a different perspective. But right now, I just can't stress that it's the end of the season. I just can't do that logically at all. And realistically, you can't. Because if you're looking at this team, they're still in the wild card spot, basically. I know right now they're 2 games on the wild card spot, I believe. If I look at it right here. 2 games out, possibly. They're a game and a half. And if that score holds up with the Reds and the Cardinals, it's 6-3 in the bottom of the 6th. If that score holds up, the Phillies are still a game out of the wild card spot in the third wild card spot. So like I said, they're going to be within this thing to the, like I said, in it till the end. And like Sean, I understand. Yes, it's very hard to believe them. I understand that. I do. I got to understand, as you were as a guy watching the Phillies your entire life, I can understand that. I do. But I just can't look at this realistically and say that the season is over. I just can't. I cannot do that. Spain without the S. Nick Castellanos is going to go down as the worst signing in Phillies history. He won't be here his entire Phillies contract, mark my words. I don't believe that. Right now, yeah, the contract is looking terrible. It is. But this isn't who Nick Castellanos is. It just isn't. He has a proven track record of being a really good hitter in this league. I don't know what the problem is. I can't tell you what the problem is. He needs to wake it the fuck up. I don't know when that's going to happen. It's just it. It just is. I don't know what to tell you. Other question is, if they do get in, how much of a chance do you give this team to do anything relevant? I'm not expecting a World Series, Sean. I've never said this team was going to make the World Series. I never did. All I stressed was that I stressed at the beginning of the season, they were probably going to be a wild card team. Second, third wild card spot. And where are they at right now? Basically around that point. Vegas had them for around 85, 86 wins. This is what an 85, 86 win team looks like. Major ups, major downs. It's what it looks like. And thankfully, for that extra wild card spot, you have a chance. And that's what I said at the beginning of the year. Second, third wild card spot is what this team is probably going to be. And they're right around that. I'm not expecting them to do anything in the playoffs. But if you get into the playoffs, that gives guys experience that desperately need it in the playoffs. Zack Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Rhys Hoskins. Those guys need to be in the playoffs. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, seriously, you need those guys in the playoffs. And if you get into that playoff jump, maybe that makes things better for next year. Maybe guys will go into next year thinking, okay, we made the wild card spot. We got a little taste of the playoffs. Okay, we know what it takes to get there now. Let's find a way to move forward and go up further. That's what the Phillies teams in the early 2000s did. Even though I'm not comparing this team whatsoever, I'm just stating facts. Some other teams do it too. Yeah, we've seen teams in previous years. So I know, like the Washington Nationals, they're a team that's like off everything as well. It's just right now we're in a very frustrating part here, and it's like I said, it's very understandable to be frustrated in this team. It's very understandable to not give them the benefit of the doubt, and I understand why Phillies fans don't do it. For 10 straight years of not making the playoffs, and since 2018, you have major second half collapses. It's understandable why. And I don't blame Phillies fans for, like you, Sean, I don't blame you for not believing in this team. I just can't physically right now say that the season is over. I just cannot do that. In my wholehearted opinion. Am I frustrated? Yes, I am frustrated. But when I see players on this team, I just can't put it into my mind that they're just going to sit there and collapse. I just can't do it. I physically can't do it. And am I setting myself up for misery? Possibly. Yeah. But I just can't be the guy that just harps on the negativity. I just don't do that as a sports fan. I don't. Even though there's certain Philadelphia teams that want you to harp on the negativities because that's all they show you. I physically just can't do that. I can't. I got to look at it at base value right here and where this team is at and thinking, no, this is not the end of the world. Frustrating, yes. But it's not the end of the season, in my honest opinion. That's where I stand. JT isn't playing well because he still feels like a big boy because he's got to show his manliness when explaining why he wouldn't get vaccinated. How brave man is being. Yeah. Right now, like I said, if Didi, JT, and Nick Castellanos were playing up to their potential, wouldn't be in this mess. Just wouldn't be. Phillies and the Flyers feel like they're on a treadmill of mediocrity right now. Yeah, it's what's been. But like I said, I don't think the Phillies are out of it. I just don't. But like I said, I understand why people don't want to give them that benefit of the doubt. It's completely understandable. Sometimes when you're hitting in a hitting slump, you get so messed up mentally, you never come out of it. That's where Castellanos is right now. Yeah, basically is. Basically is. And it's just so odd to me because he has a track record of success in this league his entire career, and it just doesn't make any sense to me why he is struggling this much. I just can't tell you that. Because if I go to his entire career, he is a career 275 hitter, career 275. Looking at his past seasons, and he's shown many glimpses of power. His second year in Detroit, 11 home runs, 66 RBI. Third year in Detroit, 15 home runs, 73 RBI, 255 average. 2016 in Detroit, 18 home runs, 58 RBIs. 2017, 26 home runs, 101 RBIs, a 272 average. Then he got traded to Chicago eventually. But actually, this is still 2018, 23 home runs, 89 RBIs, a 298 average. 2019, this is when he was eventually traded to Chicago. In the first half, 11 home runs, 37 RBIs, but a 273 average. And then when he got traded to Chicago, 16 home runs, 36 RBIs, batted 321. Signed with Cincinnati in the COVID shortened year, 14 home runs, 34 RBIs. And then last year with Cincinnati, 34 home runs and 100 RBIs, with a 309 average. His career, like I said, his career average is 275. 326 on base percentage for his career, and a 476 slugging for his career, an 802 OPS for his career. He is a good hitter. His career shows that he is a good hitter, and he can hit for power and he can slug. I couldn't tell you what the problem is. And if you're saying he's a shell of what he used to be, like what P-Sheep is right here, like how does that instantly change in one season? How did that instantly change when you had back-to-back seasons of... I'm not trying to call you out, P-Sheep. It was just the first comment I saw. I'm not trying to call you out whatsoever. But it's just like how does that make sense? It just doesn't to me. Because he has a proven track record of being good. Why all of a sudden is it just struggle? And he can't figure it out. Boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Braves built a postseason team in the way the Phillies can't. Homegrown talent such as Freeman, Riley, Acuna Jr., Albies, Fried, and Strider. I think that's his name. Oh, yeah. Well, Harris II started playing this year. But yeah, that is the complete difference. That's the failure from the Clintac McPhail area. That is their failure of missing out on prospects, not being able to develop them, drafting a Mickey Moniak first overall, drafting Adam Hazley, drafting all of these guys, and then they turn to shit and you can't develop them. That's the failure of the Clintac McPhail era. And that's one of the part of the reasons why Dave Dombrowski was brought in. All the moves that he made to bolster the prospect system to try, make the development system a lot better. He hired Mattingly from the Yankees. That's also one of the reasons why he was brought into this situation. It's sad. You would have hoped that the All-Star break would be a reset mentally. Can't tell you that, man. I just can't. It's frustrating. It is. Very frustrating. But I'm going to leave this off because if you're looking at the schedule upcoming, you have 3 games against the Braves. And it doesn't look good. The pitching matchups either. Looking at the pitching matchups against Atlanta this week. Ranger Suarez going up against Max Fried. Yeah, doesn't look good there. Nola going up against Spencer Strider. And Spencer Strider has been really good this year. 4-3 record, 3.03 ERA, 1.05 whip. Been really good. And then you get Charlie Morton on the Wednesday afternoon game against Kyle Gibson. So yeah. What you did against the Cubs this series, or what you didn't do, you got swept. It put you in a major hole here. Because if you won the series against Chicago, people probably would have accepted at okay, maybe you lose the series to the Braves. But now you got to win this series against Atlanta. And it's not guaranteed at all. My expectations, 1 game at a time. That's all I can say. It's really all I can say at this point. Very frustrating. Very, very, very frustrating. But like I said, I'm going to leave it off there, everyone. I do appreciate everyone here that joins the live feed as always. So don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. I like to see them as always. Do not forget to drop a like on the video. Don't forget to check out everything in the description below. Painted Lines, BrodesMedia, everything like that. I recommend it. I also recommend hitting the subscribe button. I also recommend using the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Use it for anything you can think of, sporting events, concerts. Great deal. Don't pass it up. I definitely recommend that. And I will see you guys next time.